everybody, welcome back to our our swing trade class. I almost said think script because I have been working on a think script for us today to take a look at. I really want to talk about how relative strength can reveal more, and it is revealing a lot more as to what's out there right now in the markets in terms of market leaders in terms of strength. What is moving? We know that semiconductors have been down quite a bit. You won't find that in this search, of course. You'll find what is really heading higher relative to the S&P 500 in the form of a ThinkScript scan. It's very simplified, but it can be very effective and a very effective tool to finding particular swing trade setups out there. So I really look forward to diving into our discussion today with each of you. And I'm joined in the chat by a great friend, colleague of mine, Connie Hill. I was figuring just before we got in here, I've been working with Connie for about 17 years or so. I've been here longer, but Connie was out doing other things at that time, like she was teaching on the road and things along those lines, teaching different trading rooms, whereas I was just handling customers' discussions like through the phone. So it's been great being here with Connie. And folks, any questions, comments, throw those in the chat so we can address those for you. Hello to you, Paul, as well as Jenny. Michelle, great to have you here. I did have a good weekend in the mountain. Absolutely, it was good. It was a lot cooler too, I might say. Just getting up about another 1,000 feet is amazing in terms of just dropping that temperature 10, 15 degrees pretty quick. It can be. It can be pretty quick. The air quality is super good too. Got some additional photos to share on that for sure. But hello to you, Mason, Mark, Kevin, Paul, Will. How's it going, Will? Welcoming us all, as well as Michael. Aloha to you, Scott, and Jay Richardson, Jesse, Sharon, Chris, and others. Folks, any questions, comments? Again, the chat's a perfect spot for that. I'm going to keep an eye on that for you as well, but excited to get started here. So let's hit those disclosures to get going. Now, this material is intended for general informational and educational purposes only. The paper money software application is provided for education purposes only. Investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Now, there is no guarantee that the execution of a stop order, which we will be looking at today, will be at or near the stop price. And past performance, no guarantee of future results. Dividends aren't guaranteed. We do tap into dividends. We do look at it. We are going to see it today too. Dividend paying stocks, but just wanted to put a note in there on that. Now, futures and futures options trading does involve substantial risk. It is not suitable for all investors, and we don't really look at, well, we don't trade futures here at all, like example trades, but we do look at futures. And there has been some interesting developments with a particular futures contract that I think you all would recognize pretty well as to what's going on. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here, and let's take a look at our charts. We'll go full screen here. I want to take a look, not at GoDaddy right now. I'm going to take a look at something else. You notice the GoDaddy, kind of that rounded saucer bottom that you get there, that pulled up off of our scan. Excited to take a look at it. What do we have here? We have got the S&P 500 index, folks, still just holding firm at that number. We had thought there might be some support through there. There had previously been some pretty good support. It's a fairly, it's a round number. It's, it's not the biggest round. It's not 8,000, but it's 7,400. We're holding up right in that range, and we're just driving. That's exactly what's fascinating here is that's exactly where that apex, if I could point to it there, apex of the triangle, it came to right there. Right there. Now, I think there are, as we talked about like last week, and we talked about in other areas too, other classes, I should say, in terms of the news cycle and what's happening with news. I want to just flip over here super quick to just highlight, yes, oil can play a big role. We're seeing some bounces out there in oil, but we're seeing some fascinating rotation too within the oil, within the markets as oil kind of goes down and semis go down too. Semiconductors, kind of like the AI trade. Want to hit that just super quick. But look at that pullback on oil. I mean, that was like approaching that 95. I'd sent out a little X post on this previously, just stating that this is really the area where volume profile was at. And I'd say that could play a role between 90 and 100. A lot of trades in here over the last year. It really was the biggest amount of trading. We bounced off that level, but you have to say it was really back to the negotiating table that did it. US, Iran, trying to, and kind of a ceasefire agreement on both sides. I did notice, like yesterday, the day before, that instead of getting 1 to 2 ships through the Straits of Hormuz, we're back up into getting close to, I think, double-digit range. I know there was like 7 or 8, and then it might have gone up into the double-digit range, which eases tensions, and a lot more went through the Red Sea. So, little side note on that, but hey, that does play a role in our market. But then you say, Mike, well, you know what? Yeah, it does. And it may have very well helped out the S&P 500 hold up here because we're getting a broad-based rally, a lot of breadth in the market, actually, like software companies and others are going up. There's a connection there real quick to tie in for you. You can see over here. Now, overnight, the Kospi, that is the Korean markets, went down. I was reading 8%. I think they might have closed somewhere near that level. That's down. But it was really that HK Hynix, which is that semiconductor, and it did bleed over a little bit into the technology area. Um, as you can see, I want to do this just so we have a guideline here, that upward move. All we're really doing is mapping out the high and the low here. We have not yet had a breakout to the upside. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this and just show you where the price pattern suggests where it could come down. Where do we begin to break? Right there. So that suggests that we could dip down to this extension in terms of the price target, and it is getting close to some prior highs over here. Can I draw an arrow? Yes, I kind of can. About 26,500 range. So just park that in your mind. Sometimes you get to that level. Doesn't mean it has to stop there. Nothing means anything, I mean, in terms of like it has to type do things, but it could bounce here as well. But yeah, there's just a big exposure to those semiconductors that were pounding the Kospi. Little kind of a side note here as we look at this. All right. Well, welcome to all of you just joining us here. Yeah, by the way, yeah, I did post that too. There is an FOMC announcement, and that is Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, I think I posted that super quick. Follow Connie on Ion X, Connie Hill CS. I'm Mike Fairborn CS. I'm just going to see if I could just find it though. Super, super quick for you. It would have been down here past the robots boxing. Yes, that's how they're using AI now, combat sports. Had to post that one, but that's the big one, just right there. Economic calendar this week. I'll find that there. I can post this for it. That might be the biggest one. Just keep an eye. That's tomorrow. That can be a market mover, no doubt, particularly if just what the Fed is going to do. Do they raise rates or not? But Connie and I will post this type of info on our um, X posts there. Encourage you to follow us there. But by the way, too, while we're at it, if you are getting value out of this presentation, that's the key, though. If you are getting value, you got to get value. I wouldn't expect you to like it otherwise, but if you are, smash that like button. It lets us know that it is of value, and it does help kind of spread the word a little bit in terms of the classes and lets people know about it. All right. Well, with that, let's do this. Now, I talk about this pretty routinely in my markets and sectors class, but not a ton in this class, but we are looking for, remember this, when we are looking at the markets, we're looking for the strength of the move. When we're looking at swing trades in particular, just looking at the S&P 500, boy, this would have been an awesome swing trade, probably after that gap here. Really difficult to know off the bottom, but really kind of this portion of the move, right? We're just looking for that. This is the market here, but that 3 to 15 days. Let me show you where we did something like this recently on a trade that we're still in. Um, Apple. This is one of just 2 or 3 trades that we've got on right now. You can see where we took this trade at. We did add a little bit more to it. You can see there's a couple 50s in here. I could have just done 100, but we had done kind of a layered approach here. But this is what we're talking about. We like to see the trend established. We like to see prices coming up. Remember in this case, I'm sure many of you will recall, it went flat there. Now, that's oftentimes a very, very strong sign. And we can see sort of a flag, which we drew in here. Okay. And we had a similar kind of an expectation for a move to the upside. Now, we are getting close to that level. We're looking to cash in. This is just paper money example trades, but about 100 shares. And we're doing okay on this trade right now. Obviously, we got in our initial one here, and then we bought again on the pullback, 50-50. In my book, I guess that equals 150 at 50. And that was our full trade size. But this is swing trading because I'm seeing some new names in here. And we're just trying to pick up on just kind of the strongest portions of the move as it relates to the existing trend. And that's what we do in this class, right? 3 to 15 days. I always say up to a month because some traders will go a little bit longer. But you're trying to, we're just trying to capture this run. So we have had a little bit of a bounce here. In fact, I'm just going to go to my active trader here. Yeah, I mean, it's a big, you can actually do quite well. This is all paper money, but I'm just stating by trying to just capture the strength of the market. Okay. The strongest stocks within the market, it just so happened that a lot of companies were going down, 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 down at this exact point that Apple was showing strength. And we said, gosh, there's a little bit of rotation out there in the market. And a lot of times prices can be a really fantastic insight into that. Right up here, sideways, bam, it started to roll. Okay, now that's our target up top. We already have it set in place. But that is what we're looking for. And this actually is really interesting because it remains a relatively, keyword, strong stock compared to what else is out there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Paul says maybe Michael can share how to change the hold with the moving average shape. Oh, that's a good one. That's something I could look into, Paul. Oh, I'll zoom down. I wasn't even caught up. I'm glad I saw that though. Appreciate those comments. I make note of those and I do take a look into the chats, afterwards and I see what topic requests and I build on those. Did that last week, for our ThinkScript class. So can't do it right now, but during our discussion, I got some other stuff that hit, but for sure, I like that. We'll try to work with that. Now, getting into sector rotation, relative strength shows more than just price action. It shows relative strength compared to the market. This is a 6-month view of a chart I've run. I'm going to just share it right now. Now, just a quick note, ThinkScripts aren't guaranteed, folks, for timeliness or accuracy. But as long as the data flowing into the platform is good data, we have good data, then it should just unfold. Just letting you know that. But here is your relative strength right there. Grid, I think many of you have it already. But you'll notice over here, we've been seeing some of the companies, what we're really looking at here, just a quick overview, super quick, because many of you know this. But look at energy. What the heck is going on here? Energy going up like this, but the S&P going flat. We're comparing the price performance of all of the stocks in this S&P 500 sector, and there are 11 of them, with our reference point being the S&P 500 down below. You can see I still have that line in there. Hasn't broken that line yet, but I'm keeping it on there for further insights. But if we come up here and I maximize this by clicking on this here, you'll all have this now because you can import it. Maximize the sell. There it is. And look what's going on behind the scenes. I have one indicator, a grand total of one indicator here, which is a really cool indicator. And it just looks at the relative price performance. So you could say collective stock prices. I'll just say stock prices relative to the S. Gosh, let me write that a little bit better. S and P. So stock prices relative to the S&P in terms of a ratio type relationship. In other words, it's going up relative to what the market's doing. So in other words, if there was real strength, if the market was going up and we could find companies that are actually going even stronger than the market, this tells us something about the potential for institutional rotation into specific areas. And it's good doing that. It's pretty good. Now, when we look at it on a sector basis, the unfortunate thing is we're not looking at all the industries. I couldn't even fit them all in here. On the grid up here, I got 32, and I got way more than 32. But what I could do is I could create like a bunch of these for one sector and see what's really moving within this group. Notice over here, healthcare, boom. I mean, we started to flatten out here in May and June, and it's been really doing quite well. Technology outperforming, but we have within technology certain areas, don't we? This is all a technology. This is everything within there. I mean, you got software, which by the way, lately, one of these has been going up. You have semis, which we know has been going down because of AI expenditures have kind of eased up a little bit, and there's been some concern there. But collectively, it's been going down. So this grid gives us some insight, but not all the insight we're after. The cool thing is it does do that measurement. Now, what I wanted to do, because we're swing trading, these are all indices. We can't even trade in these trades. Now, there are ETFs out there. We don't go into ETFs in this class, okay? But there are ETFs on sectors and industries, but today I wanted to look at what are the best stocks out there, and then that will help us kind of narrow down, okay, what in technology is doing well, what in healthcare is doing well, uh, and kind of help us find something like our previous trade that we've been looking at, which was AAPL right there. Okay. Yeah, hey Jesse, I don't quite have time to build to show you how to do that. I can show you, you know what? There might be a class out there, Connie, that shows that. I'm trying to remember. I think it might be getting started with even just that group of getting started with Think or Swim could be helpful. Where we go in here and we're actually building these grids, grid trading. I don't know if you can find that kind. If not, I can certainly try to address that in my markets and sectors class on Friday for you. Okay. Sorry about that. Got it. I've got to hit this because we've only got like 40 total minutes to hit it. So good question though, and you can copy that one in. By the way, the one I send out, once you copy it, go over here and just go into open shared item and paste it in here like that. Click on preview and click on import, and then it will show up here in your grids. Okay. So perfect. Okay. But our idea here, oh, by the way, sorry. So there is also a survey link in the chat. Thank you, Connie, for reposting that and noting it at the bottom, folks. If you're able to do that, that'd be great. Uh, you know, 10 if you liked it, one if you hated it. My manager looks at these as well. I appreciate if you're able to do it. There's only two questions. You can put a little note in there. But we find out those results. I read through them. He definitely reads through all those. If you're able to do that, great. And then I finally just, like the presentation if you're liking it. And last but not least, I'd have to just state one more, and then I promise I'm done discussing that because we really got to jump into this, and I'm looking forward to it. But last thing is this. If you're not already a subscriber, we'd love to have you on board to subscribe to our Trader Talks right over here, and I'll put that link in as well. Love to have you guys on board there. We have 207,000 subscribers. You get access to the playlists, which are great. Look at this. Look at this right here from Connie. Stocks above all three moving averages. I mean, these are great individual classes you can look at and breaking it down. There's our swing trading class right there, by the way. You can go in here if you want to get more details about prior classes, but let me just post this into the chat. And you can subscribe, folks, if in fact you're not already subscribed. I put that in there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, excellent. All right, well, let's dive into this a little bit more. So the whole idea here was to find those companies that were outperforming the S&P 500 by rolling through that mathematical formula. What is the stock price? What is the market price? In this case, I was looking at the S&P 500. What is outperforming the market? Such a simple little thing that we can look at, but very, very helpful because there is more, relative strength reveals more than price itself. That's why we use those sector charts for rotation potential, trying to find out really where the edge of, you know, where price performance is really outperforming the market, the collective index. So I'm going to pull this back over here. I'm going to pull it up because I'm going to share it here in just a second, but I want to explain it to you. Look what's at the top of the list, by the way. Apple's there. Apple's at the top of the list. I pulled up about, I want to say, let's see, what was our scan in here? We got, oh, sorry, that's not it. I'll pull it up so we can share. I gotta share it. It's just relative strength today. I built this for you guys because I thought it was just so cool to have versus the S&P 500 index right there. If we take a look at this scan, all I'm simply doing here is saying that I want over a 20-day look back period, which is market days, I want to see companies that outperformed the S&P 500, relatively speaking, by 15%. So you say to yourself, well, what does that mean? Well, if the market's up like this, then these have to be up even higher over that 20 period time frame that we're measuring over here, right? They have to be up even higher. So it's relative. What I loved about today's search is this. This is the market. This is the S&P 500. It's this. It's that triangle. In other words, we have been going flat. So what has been breaking out in the market? This is how we can spot it relative to price action, relative to the price of the market. And basically, that's what I'm doing here. And all I did was steal the relative strength index to build a scan around it. That's it. If you like more information on scans, folks, we do scans every single week in a class that's designed for ThinkScript. Well, not every, it's not always scans. Sometimes it is market, other indicators if you want to check it out. But right over here, you can do this if you want scans. We got a lot of scans here. We did the market forecast, an enhanced market forecast last week for insights as well. But I'll throw this in if you like that. But I think it's really interesting. I like to design them around ThinkScript swing trading, because then you've defined the strongest part of, you're trying to define the strongest part of the trend and go from there. So let's do it. So that was Apple over here. Now you'll notice over here too, ACN, Adobe. Let's get a bigger screen. There we go. ACN, Adobe, Abbott Labs. Remember those healthcare that were breaking up higher? Abbott Labs broke their long-term downward trend line off of a fascinating earnings. And I mean, the market responded very well with earnings. Look at Abbott. You want to see a long-term down? That's where Abbott's been. But what's interesting here is that down around these bottoms and down around these tops, and I know this is a weekly chart. I just had to show it because this is not a swing trade, but there could be swing trades within this longer term if we retrace all the way back up to the top of this channel, which it's just, this is insane, but it's a longer term weekly measured type move or just a sideways range that we oftentimes will see over a month or 2 months. This is over like 5 years, basically 5 years, I guess you could state over here, 2021, 2026. That's interesting to see that kind of a bounce off the bottom. But when we've come down to the bottoms here, we've had a tendency to break. When we come off the tops, we've had a tendency to break down too. Okay, off of my weekly, but notice you could still somewhat capture higher highs and higher lows right over here that could start it rolling. Now it's a little bit in the over, what some would consider the over bought area of the RSI, but folks, it could come back down and consolidate and continue to go like kind of, this is like a flag, right? Might still be forming a little bit of a flag. Now, quick note, this helped spot software, because software is making a little bit of resurgence as those CapEx spending numbers in AI are dropping. Well, it stands to reason that we might be seeing some of these bounces over here. Now, do we have the definition of a trend yet? We actually might have the very, very beginnings, even in Adobe. We haven't seen this, folks. We haven't seen this in a long, long time. And we can't say that it's going to go up, but we can say we can keep an eye on it for sure. Look at this over here. Higher low, higher high just today. Now, it's just getting started. You may want to, I mean, some might even wait for a pullback over here and then look for the possible move to the upside. I just want to state this because this is so fascinating, because this scan right here, as we run it at 15%, it shows about 50 stocks, about 10% of the S&P 500 at 15%. We could narrow this down by shrinking that, expanding that number, 20% performers. Many of these are performing better than 20%. Now, super quick note, I get into this with ThinkScript a lot, but maybe not here as much. So I just wanted to highlight this. Once you save this scan, you can then come over here and watch it every single day in the watch list. Because if it's saved, the great thing about Thinkorswim is you can come over here and add a watch list, right? Come into the watch list and simply just click on default and find it in your personals, which is exactly where I'm at right now. This happens to be a personal watch list. This is a personal one that I just pulled up. It's from the scan. And so it's going to update every day. You'll have that at your fingertips on the left-hand side to look for potential swing trades, which we're going to be using going forward for sure. ADP software. Oh, a little bit trendy off the bottom. I'm talking about bottoms because some of you do like the bottoms. You like the bottom formation. Some of you like the tops. The higher highs and higher lows. This is kind of getting to the range where it's kind of a little bit mixed, a bit of a mixed bag, sort of. Because look at this. That's getting up to cup and handle range. There's a little bit of a handle right there. Question mark. But oh, yeah, I should state there is earnings tomorrow. Somebody might want to wait for that. Another software. Okay, now let's move beyond this a little bit. And I've got some of these I wanted to highlight here as we go in and take a look at swing trades now. We're seeing a lot of bottoms as we look at software, but it's been literally that strong versus the S&P 500. These things have been firing up to the upside. In fact, look at this. Remember this look back 20 days or so? Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's 21% right there. No wonder why it qualifies. I'm just averaging about 20 days. But do you see this? It's pulling something behind the scenes and it's relative. Remember, it's revealing more because it's relative to the S&P. We could make it relative to the NASDAQ. We can make it relative to any symbol we want just by changing that in the scan tab. But we've got to get going on here. Oh, let's see. It looks like perhaps my production crew is saying that we might want to share that. Let's share it now. All right. So let's share it. That makes the most sense in the world, right? If we're going to talk about it. Yeah, I was going to share it. Sorry. I get going on. There's a lot to talk about in these. I'm going to put it in the chat right now without any further delay. In fact, I'm going to highlight this. Here is the scan itself. Boom, boom, boom. And the great thing about these is we found this out doing this for, I can say it now, years doing ThinkScript, that the most simple concepts they can have some of the most revealing results out there because it's not just like, hey, gosh, the RSI has to do this and your moving average has to be here. Oh, and by the way, you need to have divergence on the MACD or whatever. This is just showing you price strength relative to the market. It just reveals more than you would otherwise see. And that's why, we're able to use this. Now back to uh, AJG, which is Gallagher, Arthur Gallagher. And these guys do insurance, brokerage reinsurance. In other words, folks, they're financials. And by the way, have you noticed that many of the financials have started to move a little bit? Okay. Now, as we stop and look at this right now, I have to say this because we are in the midst of earnings season. And this is always where I look because it has been a little bit tricky doing swing trading the last couple of weeks because of this. But yeah, again, we have like earnings tomorrow, right on the verge of a very, very interesting kind of cup and handle, which is also the last part of that handle. I guess you could say the right-hand side of the cup. The right-hand side of the cup plus the handle is what? Well, looks a lot like a bull flag, right? And where are we? We're just breaking out, and this could be a very fascinating move. Earnings, I'm just gonna say is gonna play a key role. I'm not gonna put one in. Okay, we could put a small one in anticipation of this moving up higher. Let's just say somebody expects this to move up. By the way, I'm measuring this price move relative to this price move, and you can see that takes us up to a big round number there called 300, which also represents some prior highs. Interesting. Interesting. Let's do this. Let's just say we have to kind of play this out. Because I'd say all else equal, people want to wait, after earnings, but we can do different varieties here because it's all just a paper trade example anyway. So I'm just going to say somebody was going to put in 100 shares in total, but they just want to dip their feet in a little bit ahead because they think it could be a good earnings announcement. I'm sorry, 2 days from now, the 30th, as it's kind of breaking out, and they're expecting that flag trade. So what they could do, let's just do 200 shares, or excuse me, 20 shares, grand total of 100. So maybe a fifth of that we'd be putting in now. because let's say there's an expectation, a trader believes it's going to go higher. I'm going to do that right now, and you'll see what we can do. In fact, I'll put uh, a potential exit level. We talked about these, the stops just below today's low, but we're going to keep our target up towards that 300. That's a big range. So that could be, this is something we did on other stocks. We do this all the time, but under the ask, buy custom with OCO bracket order, and here you go. Let's flip this out. Let's go to GTC, GTC. I'll narrow this down. In fact, I'll just take this off too. Okay, I'm gonna go over here and let's go into ahead and just go to 20, and I'll just kind of zap through this. There we go. So we're looking at 20 shares is the kind of trade that I'd mentioned. Let me actually just adjust this a little bit. I'll just put this down like 260. And this is going to be like much, much higher on the target side if we're able to get near that level right here. And always, take a look at your dialog box as you go through and click on send there. Go. There we go. Okay, cool. We got it. And here's our chart. Now I'm simply just going to go like this on this very, very small trade. Boop, 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 pull it down right there. So just below today's low. Remember, it's only 20 shares. So if it works against us, maybe it's not too significant if it were to go down. These are just ideas. There are a lot of different ways to do this. Again, if by the way, quick note, the other thing is if it were to gap down on earnings, if the market is closed on that gap down, it might get you filled here near an opening price. So that's the risk of this ahead of earnings. I wanted to state that very clearly. These are just example trades, but let's say somebody's willing to risk less. By the way, I think a lot of people would just wait post earnings on this, but it is interesting right there. Pretty interesting upside potential relative to downside. Okay, we're done with this guy. Let's continue on. Now, I want to look at some specifically that you'll go in here and see, like GM, mixing things up a little bit. Look at that. Look what relative strength shows us here. Now, this is interesting because this represents, when I see this long-term consolidation, yes, of course, there could be a measured move potential in here too that we've talked about, off of highs and off of lows. We take this distance in price, folks, and we simply just add this distance to the upside for a potential initial target. Now, it doesn't mean it could stop there. It could go higher. I'm investing in a new set of tools, by the way, so we don't have these jagged lines anymore. So hope to get that going pretty soon. But here you go. That takes us up close to 100 here. But look at this potential. Look at this. I'm going to drop this back to a weekly chart. This is 15-year weekly, way too much time. But if there was anything like this on a GM, where we even ran, I'm going to use this one, this level, because this is actually the last major low. If that's sort of a flag type pattern, then this price action could be fulfilled on a weekly scale over here to the right. We change colors to highlight this a little bit more, but like this, right? This move over to this move on up. I'm just saying it's spotting some real core strength right now. And we can say that because it is, I mean, it's up 20% relative to the market over that time frame. Let's prove it. Is the scan working? It is. It is. In fact, it's pulling off that low, off this low, but it's giving us this range that, I'm sorry, it was 15%, not 20. So it was like right there. Yeah, so that's 20 there, but it's clearly into 15. Look at that. Now, we in this class are just looking for swing trades. So the shorter term, really the big push. There is an interesting comparable here right on the chart, and it was on its initial swing over here. I'm sorry, its initial strong, longer term trend to the upside. Do you see it? It's right here. Breaking highs, up, 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 consolidation. Folks, that looks a lot like, I mean, I think it's defined too as a flag right there. Why am I so sloppy today? Flag right there. You can see it. See the flag right there? Okay, what happened post the flag? Right here. That rally. What we're looking for here is maybe, a trader might look at this and say, yeah, you might bounce up a little bit and come down and get ready to go. Okay, that could be an approach. Now, some traders might just put on a little bit here and wait. Question mark. I mean, what's going on with GM? I don't know, but there could be an additional follow through here. of this. Okay, just this. Just focusing on this right here, right there to the upside. Consolidation. This flag is what we'd be saying right there. By the way, I realized why I am so sloppy today. I did twist my back, helping move in some furniture into this this older lady's house, and I messed up my back a little bit, so I've got an ice pack on right now, so it heals faster. And I'm just realizing, that's why I'm a little bit more, gingerly with these moves. So sorry about that, folks, but there you have it. Um, so, anyways. Could this be setting up? Sure. Look at that 100. Sometimes companies get sucked up to that level if they get moving, but a fascinating sort of insight that we only spotted through relative strength. Now, there's one there, GM. Okay. Let's keep going down the list. Now, I did have this GoDaddy pulled up. The GoDaddy, again, is one that's been way off the bottom, kind of software connected, is it not? GoDaddy, cloud-based, yeah, for sure. So we're getting a little bit of a resurgence in software as the semis have sold off for the same reason, software, right? I mean, the investment in AI versus, let's say, software developers or whatever, development. Now they're saying, well, maybe these are good values, and some of them are having good earnings too. Did we put too much into AI? Perhaps, that's why the Kospi fell as much as it did. It's that pullback on AI investment that might be coming into software, and that's why I just highlight this. But you can see over here, this is like a rounded bottom of. I mean, it's like this is like within those rounded bottoms too, you get like a double bottom. But you can see over here, could that be a little bit of a cup and handle? Yeah, and a lot of times longer term patterns can take place here. Again, we got to deal with earnings right there, um, as well. So, yeah. So with that, that's a bottom one. But look at this FDS. Okay, it too. Isn't it crazy? This relative strength does pull up a lot of potential swing trades. This one, you'd almost have to wait for it because what do you do? If you go, you're almost at resistance. There's that 300 number again, interestingly. But I mean, there's a lot of resistance there, and you're kind of actually flagging up here. But longer term reversal potential, I mean, it could have that there. It really could. Um, we'll see. I'd like to go ahead and just take a look at some of these others that we have here in our last few minutes, but this is going to be a fun one for you guys to go into. Oh, Domino's, huh? Oh, there's some strength off the bottom. Interesting. Berkshire Hathaway had a big position in Domino's, even down through here. I don't know if they kept it, but it was one of their larger additions. I'm not sure if they still have it. I just had tracked that. Uh, Berkshire Hathaway being Warren Buffett's, I should say, the company he used to manage. Here is HPQ. Oh, interesting. Okay, so definitely strength through here. Kind of an unusual one, and I have to kind of state too that it's really, really important to note that at any time, I mean, as you're going through and kind of looking at some of these bottoms and stuff, you want to be sort of mindful of resistance at the top, and that's sort of a resistance point up here. Do you see it? Oof, we bounced off that pretty sharply. We're coming up close to that again. Now, there's no doubt it had strong relative strength, but I think we're just a little bit behind the curve here on this right there. That would have been the flag pattern that, by the way, had that relative strength. It did have it, 15%. You have to say, pull back here. I think it's a little bit late in the rally, a little bit long in the tooth, so to speak, but it already had a flag. Interesting. Would have spotted it right there too. We're just seeing the second leg of it up towards resistance. So you have to be very particular with these and make sure that you are, scanning through them carefully. God, I'm seeing a lot of software here too. Look at this still. Intuit, absolutely. GoDaddy software. Um, and others, oh, LMT, defense spending, Lockheed Martin. Okay. So as I look at this, I think we're getting a lot of development potential in the form of here's your big leg up, here is your consolidation. Do we start to keep an eye? Oh, post earnings, finally a post earnings bounce. Do we start to see something like this? Now, the one thing I have to say on Lockheed too is, hey, could the software spend change if there's negotiations with Iran? I mean, that's where I think, why it's moving up as much, perhaps, recently. Ross Stores, breakouts. We're seeing a fair number of breakouts here. And with the breakouts, a lot of traders, not all of them, but a lot of traders will suggest that when you get a breakout, what's going to happen is you might not just it's kind of they'll say it's a very rare event that you just break out, you just keep going, going and going and going. In fact, what they'll state, a lot of them will state, it's more likely to get a bit of a pullback. Now, as I've shown you this pullback, because as you go through this list and look at these breakouts, um, that's a flag pattern. Now I drew the flag in myself. I drew it in. But how many times have we seen that on breakouts? You break out, you come back, and you kind of flag. Oh, well, over here, you broke above resistance right there. That was a flag off the bottom right there. I mean, we've seen it a lot of times, right? Where it will pull back from a prior high range right there and go. But this is Ross Stores. Interesting to see Ross Stores showing so much relative strength to the market, 15% over the last month relative to the S&P 500. Let's hit a couple more before we wrap this up. But oh, MCK. You guys notice a trend here? Strength, strength, and strength. And remember, that is helping us to define, really, to locate the strongest trends. Because ultimately, when we're talking about swing trading, I've got to show this because this is really the case. Uh, Let me just give you, oh gosh, a blackboard. Instead of a whiteboard, we got the blackboard, which is really easy to see here with the blue marker here. But when the RS is pointing towards trend strength. And if you're within the swing trade, we've got this trend, right, that's established. We're seeing that kind of boost on these legs over here. These legs, we've defined this really, really tight. You'd have to say, I mean, a 15+%, at least 15% moves in here. They can develop these very interesting sort of flags over here as one particular pattern. We did see breakouts. We saw, well, we saw measured moves as well in there too. So this is going to be just a fun one for us to use going forward. It's just so straightforward and easy. Oh, well, that's why I'm not seeing it. I'm going to pull up the chart. There you go. Oh, yeah, some pretty big moves off Gartner at the bottom too. International paper. Okay. Last one, potential swing trade development. Look at this. You got a higher high and a higher low, clearly. You're way off the bottom here. International paper, talk about a mixed bag of companies. It's interesting because it's a little bit diversified over here, what we're seeing. It's not just all towards one. Not to say that it couldn't, but it's just interesting now when AI is going down, AI spending, and we're seeing the semis dip. Where is the money going to? Remember the key point of this? Potential sector rotation. Where might that smart money be headed? Look over here. Are we even there? Look at this. Just like Apple, we might see a pullback here to prior highs and then taking off. Folks, have fun with this one. This is a very interesting one to keep an eye on. Yeah, look at this. So Michael mentions down there PayPal, potential island reversal. Good catch there. Love to see those price patterns. Oh, he wasn't joking. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying. When I say, oh, it's a kind of a longer, look at that. So gap right there. Gap right there. Do you guys see the island he's referring to? These can be bigger patterns. And how do you get a sense of the move coming out? That it could continue on? Strength. Look at this. To that point they made right over here. Look at this. So upward move, consolidation. Is that post earnings? Looks like it might be. Yeah, I'm kind of like eyeballing it. Look like it might be. That could be somewhat of an upward move over here. Just using it as a flag. All right, everybody. Well, again, if you like today's presentation, just smash that like button. It lets us know. For those of you viewing this on the recording, I will have each of those scripts excuse me. Well, we talked about the relative strength grid. Then we talked about this scan. I'll have both of those with below the description section under this video. You want to click on more, but that's where that's going to be. Again, folks, great to have you on board. If you're not already a subscriber, you can tap into our great content over here. That's the ThinkScript class. That is different right over here. Did share this as well, but love to have you guys on board there. And be sure to follow Connie and I on X. Where is it? There it is. Okay. All right. All right. And there, by the way, survey link. That's right. Survey link in the chat too. Just 2 questions. If you're able to fill that out, really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you so much, Connie, for your help. Very active. And thanks to all of you for your comments, questions in the chat. Really appreciate it. I'll go back and review those as well. Everybody have a fantastic rest of the day. See y'all next time.